Have beautiful girlfriend. One-itis. She travels to New Zealand with some friends for the summer. They go to the beach. Riptide and undertow gets her and her friend. Friend manages to get out. Girlfriend's still stuck out there. No one can get to her. The ocean takes her. She never came home. But what haunts me to this day is that she was calling out my name. She knew I was thousands of miles away. In her final breaths, she called for me to save her. I wasn't there to save her. I miss you every day, Laura. Go out with family. We go bowling. Actually have a good time. We joke around and laugh. Autistic brother only yells at two strangers. Didn't win. Had fun anyway. There may be something to this life. Talking to my dad about depression. Explaining passive suicidality. While I'm not going to actively try to end myself, if a truck was coming straight at me, I probably wouldn't get out of the way. His reply. His frickin' reply. Oh, that's how I felt my whole life. My face went. Be me, 21 years old, living in a small town. Only have one friend, Jake. Jake and I grew up together. Always had each other's backs. He's the funniest guy I know. Always making me laugh. One day, Jake starts acting weird. He's more withdrawn. Doesn't want to hang out. Ask him what's up. He brushes it off, says he's just tired. Months go by, his mood gets worse. One night, I decide to show up at his house. Knock on the door. No answer. Look through the window. See him sitting on the floor. He's got his guitar, but he looks shattered. I call his phone. He finally picks up. I'm not doing well, man. Heart sinks. He tells me he's been feeling depressed for months. He didn't want to burden me. Promise him I'm here, always will be. We start to talk more. I think we're getting somewhere. One Friday, we plan a movie night. He's excited. Says it's been a while. I go over with snacks and a couple of movies. He looks happier than I've seen him in a long time. We laugh. We eat popcorn. Everything feels right. Then he gets quiet. I don't think I can keep doing this. Ask him what he means. He looks down. Tears start to form. I'm so tired, man. I don't know if I want to keep fighting. Panic mode activated. Tell him we'll get through this together. But he just shakes his head. Next day he doesn't reply. Text him, no answer. Call him, voicemail. Feel my heart racing. Something feels very wrong. Decide to go to his house again. Knock, knock, knock. No answer. Call the police. They break down the door. Find him. He's gone. Everything goes black. Can't believe it. My mind is racing. Why didn't I see the signs earlier? Days turn into weeks. I can barely function. Attend his funeral. It feels like a bad dream. Standing by his casket. I remember all the good times. Can't shake the guilt. What could I have done? Was it my fault? Months later, sitting in my room. Still can't move on. Jake was always there for me, and I let him slip away. Decide to carry on, but it feels hollow. Every laugh reminds me of him. Every song I play on his guitar feels like a punch to the gut. Life goes on, but it'll never be the same. Always miss you, Jake. No one will ever replace my best friend, and I just wish I could have saved him. Be me, 13, middle 2006, massively bullied in this Jewish, rich neighborhood middle school. One day, this girl I know to be a friend with the bullies asks me if I'd like to date her. Everybody in my class encourages me to accept. Confused and suspicious.jpg. Don't feel it, answer with a no, with a random fake excuse. She actually insists. Send me notes in class asking me to reconsider. Telling me she'd do anything, etc. Still suspicious? 51% of me believes it's a joke. Awkwardly and remorsefully say no again. Fast forward next year, I learned from another girl I didn't even know that it was indeed a plot against me. Scam confirmed. Also, did the whole school know about that? Time passed in a self-sustaining loop of getting bullied, being even more awkward, being bullied more. 2015, still lonely, still bullied, still no girlfriend. I read a news article about a huge and nasty scandal dating back to early 2006. A Jewish guy had been kidnapped, detained, and tortured to death 20 versus 1 during 24 frickin' days by some guy that wanted to ask a huge ransom to his family cause, you know, if he's Jewish, he is rich. Poor dude had been trapped by a girl who pretended to want to date him to lure him in an isolated place for an easier abduction. Realization.mp3. These little mother effers heard in the press about what happened to one member of their community they didn't even know and decided to virtually do the same thing to me. I don't believe they would have tortured me to death. More like they would have broken my face 10 versus 1. They did everything they could so that I would end myself. And such a traumatic trap would have certainly been the final blow. In 2022, like in 2015, now living with the impression that I dodged an assassination attempt from my whole school. Still lonely, no girlfriend, few friends, still awkward, and slowly descending in the dark depths of bitterness. Still moving but dead inside. Day 1. Here's a story from when I was a teenager. B14. My mother is very sick. Constant medical issues, mobility issues. Not fat, she literally can't balance. Being 14, I thought she was invincible and would just get over it. She's literally riddled with cancer. She's a fighter though, and we live in Australia, so amazing healthcare. She battles every shitty illness for 2 whole years. All this time, still manages to just be my mum. Makes me lunches, helps with homework, etc. I'm always nice to her, because she's sick, but sometimes it takes its toll and I get mad. We have to eventually get a carer in to look after her as she is getting very sick. She is bedridden before I know it. I can hear the medical equipment from my room. Wake up one night to her gasping. Walk into her room with a glass of water. She's gasping for air. She'd fallen from bed and broken 2 vertebrae. She goes to hospital for 2 months after that. Fast forward 3 months and she is well enough to go to the park with her best friend and me. We laugh and she even made us some sandwiches. She gets sicker over the next few days, but she still does those mom things, like making my school lunches. She barely has enough energy to get out of bed, but still makes my lunch. Gets called out of class one day, told to go to the office. There's a cab waiting for me. The principal tells me, the school is here for you, but I don't understand. Get to hospital, taken to emergency. Watch my mother smile at me and take her last breath. Later that night, I'm home. Walk into the kitchen after crying for hours. Open the fridge. Laid out in there are my school lunches for the next 3 days. She literally used the last energy in her body to make sure I had my lunches for that week. I sat there on the floor and ate every last one. I still can't think about how caring that woman was without tearing up. God, I miss her. Be me. 25 years old. Living alone in a small apartment. Got a job I kind of hate, but it pays the bills. No real friends, just co-workers who don't really get me. Every evening, I'm greeted by silence when I come home. One day, while walking home, I see a tiny puppy shaking outside a pet store. Look around, no owner in sight. My heart melts. Decide to take him home. Name him Max. He's my whole world now. We do everything together. Go to the park, binge watch shows. He even sleeps in my bed. Greatest companionship I've ever had. Fast forward a year. Max starts coughing and acting weird. Take him to the vet. Diagnosis shocked me. Rare illness, needs surgery or he won't make it. Can't afford it. Spends sleepless nights googling crowdfunding and charity options. Finally set up a GoFundMe. Share it everywhere. Desperate for help. Family contribute a little, but it's not enough. Even reach out to strangers in dog forums. One kind stranger donates a significant amount. Hope flares up. Maybe we can make it. The surgery day arrives. Heart is racing. I just want him to be okay. Vet calls me a few hours later. Says the surgery was a success. Relief washes over me. Days go by. Max is recovering. But then he starts to crash. Not eating, not even wagging his tail. Back to the vet. Find out the illness has come back. And this time it's worse. They try to treat him, but he keeps getting weaker. Hold him in my arms, tears streaming down my face. He looks up at me, tail a little wag. Looks like he's trying to comfort me. Last day with him. Vet tells me it's time to say goodbye. I whisper to him all the happy moments we had. You're my best friend, Max. I love you. He looks at me like he understands. Finally let go. They inject him. I feel his little body relax. He's gone. Go home that night. Apartment feels colder, emptier than ever. Random dog toys scattered on the floor. The silence returns, heavier than before. Try to move on, but it feels impossible. Every night I still hear him scratching at the door in my dreams. Can't even look at the spots he used to curl up in. Some days I just lie on the floor and cry. Thank you for the memories, little buddy. But it hurts way too much without you. Friends of 20 years don't invite you to New Year's Eve dinner. Having dinner at restaurant 50 feet from your apartment. Text the group if anyone is doing anything for New Year's Eve. None of them mentioned they are currently half a block away. Run into them as you walk alone to get a lonely man New Year's Eve burrito. That feeling when you have to pretend this is all okay and make small talk chit-chat. That feeling when the burrito shop is now closed after 10 minutes of awkward platitudes. That feeling when you spend New Year's Eve hungry, alone, and betrayed. Just had to tell someone. Fudge my life. Be me. 5 years ago, sitting alone in a hospital room with 94-year-old dad. Nothing wrong with him, just old and his time is coming. Just sitting there with him and suddenly he starts whistling We'll Meet Again by Vera Lynn. After he finishes, I look at him and tell him it was a good song. He looks up at me from his bed. Damn frickin' right it was. Best song in the world. I go onto my phone and put on the song and we listen for a while. After a while more of hanging out, I leave and go home for the night. Wake up in the morning to a text from my sister that he died a bit after I left. My face when we'll meet again, Pops. Someday.